access to that.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Well, come along and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you right here on this Thursday, January 7th from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the great people at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, they've got a zero sales event going on right now. Get over there and see them. You know where they are. Also, the great folks at French Slick Resort and Casino. Appreciate those guys as well. Both coming on as presenting sponsors here of Indiana Sports Beat. Make sure you get down to French Lake, man. Check it out. The casino's open. The hotel's open. And you could drive in a nice new Andy Moore Honda to get there. Dustin Schutte joining us from Saturday Tradition, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Jim. I'm doing great. How are you?
Cannot complain. It's Thursday. We're almost through the week. We've got an Indiana basketball game tonight as the Hoosiers take on Wisconsin. We've just got a football game, a title game, I hope, maybe coming up Monday. We'll talk about. We'll see. And I continue to laugh. There was thoughts of needing potentially to change that. They were way out in front of that. I just wonder how many teams not named Ohio State, Clemson, or Alabama would that even been a consideration for? I know they desperately need to get this game on TV. They need the ratings. They need all that. And to do that, you don't want Justin Fields backup. You don't want to, people don't want to see Notre Dame 2 times Clemson. That's not what they want. That's why Notre Dame's able to win. They want to see the stuff. So it's a two-headed monster. Alabama wants to play the game. I get it. They should. TV people say, hey, we gotta have the best game we can possibly have. So it's a catch-22, man.
Yeah, it really is. And, you saw it from, I believe it was on Tuesday when some of those rumors started coming out that they may have a delay, that, Ohio State still wanted to play Alabama, the SEC, and the Big Ten. Despite the initial rumor that the Big Ten was trying to block the game, it sounds like there was no truth to that. So it sounds like all parties are go. And at this point, you have to think that the game's going to get played on Monday. And, I don't think it sounds like Justin Fields is going to be okay. He's going to be ready to go. But, we don't know what the COVID-19 situation is for either of these teams. It sounds like it's just fine in Alabama. Ohio State has played it close to the vest all season long. So, they could have potentially some guys out for that game. And, they were without 22 guys in the Big Ten championship game. And if you're trying to win a national championship against Alabama, you can't have that many guys out. So, we still just have to cross our fingers and cross our toes because, this thing can get postponed until January 18th at a moment's notice. And you're starting to see more of these college basketball games. We've seen a couple games in the Big Ten get postponed. So yeah, you just got to hope that they can get through this and we get a game on Monday night and complete this season.
Well, it's be a little remiss of me if it just completely ignored all the turmoil that's going on out there with the elections and all that. Don't do politics here, man. It's a no spin zone here because it's just doesn't. I'll leave that for other people to argue that stuff. Trust me, I got the opinions, but as you can tell, but I will hold those here. But that's probably there's an effect there. But this stuff is needed. We need this. The country needs this stuff. I mean, especially as if it's getting worse, which it seems like it is right now. Temporarily, we've got the new strand out there, and the vaccines are slow. They're lagged to get those out. It's a delicate situation, man. And we don't want to go through another lockdown. So I'm doing whatever I can, but I'd sure like to be able to see games and all that and keep that continue. But there's also the health and the safety of all the participants and all that stuff. You got the NCAA tournament coming up here in Indiana. That's a whole other thing to talk about. But with this thing, Indiana has not exactly been the safest place to be numbers-wise, for the coronavirus. So, but let's hopefully that things start to settle down with this vaccine. But man, they got to get it out there.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with what's all going on with that up front, but I know that it's certain states it seems like are getting criticized. I know here in Georgia, There's been a really slow process of getting that rolled out. So, hopefully we can get this thing going. And then, by spring, I think that we're going to probably have a no fans or a limited, friends and family NCAA tournament, which is fine. But we get this thing rolled out and everything good to go. And hopefully we can have a somewhat normal, by college football season in 2021. Hopefully we can have some, fans back in the stadiums. And I don't know that we'll see full capacity anywhere. Maybe we will in some parts of the country. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, you just kind of gotta take it all. I mean, you just gotta breathe, but it's nice to see sports being played because it does. You're right. What it always does is it's the ultimate distraction for us. For a couple hours, you get to watch your favorite team, or you get to watch the best player, or, whatever the case might be. For 4 hours on Monday night, we can all we see what's going on across the country with the pandemic and politics and all this stuff. And for 4 hours on Monday night, we can all just kind of breathe a sigh of relief, watch a really good football game, we hope, and take our minds off of everything else. And, that's why you hope that everything's good to go. And we see Ohio State and Alabama. And based on what we saw in the semifinal, that should be a really good game because Ohio State, Jim, you called it on this show. You thought Ohio State beat Clemson. I thought there was no way. And they not only beat them, they pummeled them.
Well, I didn't expect that. I'll be honest with you. I mean, that was not. I mean, and anybody in the world that said that they would have expected that would have been, I don't know, a little disingenuous. But I've just never believed in the ACC. I just watched that conference and I just thought it was weak. I thought the football was not good. I thought at one point when your second best team is North Carolina, they're terrible. And I'm like, well, that's the best you got. And I knew this Notre Dame team. I'm like, they're okay. They're a good team. But they're no better than Indiana. They're no better than Iowa State. They're no better than Oklahoma. They're no better than Cincinnati. They're no better than a whole bunch of teams. And it still aggravates me that this committee just wanted to hand a $12 million check to the weakest conference that both go out and get pummeled. That was their, you know what they were? They were the pre-conference teams. All the ACC is in the college football playoffs. That's the pre-conference games that you see in the normal football season when the Big Ten is playing a MAC team. The ACC is the MAC team for the college football playoffs. They're fodder, but they don't care. They just walked away with $12 million for that.
Yeah, and they were, 0-6, I think, in the postseason. The ACC didn't win a single bowl game. So, you compare that to what you just said. And you know what is interesting to me is you go back to when we started the college football season. Two of the first conferences to get started were the Big 12 and the ACC. So we had a couple weeks of just ACC and Big 12 football. So, of course, Miami's going to look good. Of course, North Carolina and Notre Dame are going to look good. It's just very interesting how, because nobody else was playing at that time, it kind of skewed the media's attention and their perception of the ACC as a really good conference. Well, when you have nobody else to compare it to, and then you look at, ESPN's David Pollack was talking about how the Big Ten had a really bad year, to quote him. And Big Ten's 3-1 with a chance to win a national championship. And Indiana lost by 6 points to Ole Miss. They should have won that game. They should have won that game by a lot. But you look at Northwestern beat Auburn. Wisconsin beat Wake Forest. Ohio State beat Clemson. So there was this perception that the ACC is so much better than the Big Ten. And really, when it came down to it, you just saw how good the Big Ten was, even though teams like Penn State, Michigan, Wisconsin weren't as good as they typically are.
Yeah, it's the thing is that sucked about Indiana losing, and I sent out a tweet like immediately afterwards about them being outcoached in this game again. Mm-hmm. Indiana's loss hurt the Big Ten badly. They lost to a inferior team, and they're looking to Indiana as a barometer of the Big Ten. Well, is Indiana the second best team in the Big Ten? Well, they can't be. They just got beat by a horrible SEC team that had to beg their players to come play and didn't even have their best players. So that's why it's so, as a media person that follows Indiana, I don't want to ever sound like a homer, because I'm not a homer. I tell you what I see, how I feel. And with this team, it's been 80% positive, because that's the case. That's what else you going to say? But when it's not positive, I'm going to say that. But it's been mostly positive for the right reasons. But it's also there's now, as Zach Osterman did a thing, there's expectations now, and there are, but those expectations were already here, and winning a game against an inferior team, that's an expectation that's already there, and you just can't do that, and that's why when you've got all these national people, David Pollack and all that, who they're not buying into Indiana, and I get that because they're not here covering it, and what they have to go on is the years and years of seeing what we saw in the Outback Bowl and the Gator Bowl again. And so that's what they see. But I knew covering this team, I knew this team is for real. This is not a homer thing. This team is good, and they're going to be good again next year. Their only deficit right now, he got outcoached. There's just not, you can't have, and I'm not, Tom Allen just has done a superior job. And I'm not talking about him per se, but he just needs experience around him. He tried that in the beginning with Mike DeBoer, but boy, that was horrible for a whole bunch of other reasons that didn't work out. But man, not having it has shown its head 2 years in a row when you have experienced coaches that have time to prepare for you.
Right. Well, and I'm going to point to two things here because number one, I think Indiana was focused on the wrong thing. A lot of their players weren't focused on Ole Miss, They were focused on showing the Big Ten that they deserve to be and the college football playoff that they deserve to be in the New Year's Six. Well, I understand that argument, especially right afterwards. We all thought that Indiana deserved a spot in the New Year's Six, or at least the Citrus Bowl.
They still did.
There's no doubt about that. But at some point, you have to move on from that. At some point, you have to say, well, complaining about it is not going to get us in a New Year's Six bid. Let's go out. Let's win our bowl game. Let's take care of business. And then next year, if we're in this same position, maybe we'll be viewed a little bit differently. Maybe they'll say, hey, you know what? This team finished 7-1 a season ago, and they followed it up, and they were, whatever. Maybe they go 8-4, 9-3 next season, and maybe they do carve out a spot in a higher end bowl game. So you have to take care of business. And then the other thing is, this is the second year in a row in which Indiana's lost one of its coordinators to another program and allowed that coordinator to continue to coach. And I just don't think that's the best method. And I know that Indiana's offense was primarily the problem in that game. They couldn't move the football. Nick Sheridan didn't have a great game plan for that. But I also thought that was not the Indiana defense we saw all season. And Ole Miss, with their tempo and how they run offense, I understand that they do things a little bit differently that makes it hard to defend. But Indiana's defense was good against everybody it played this season. Wisconsin, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State had some studs. They had no trouble defending some of those teams and creating turnovers, and they just didn't do it. So it's just so hard for me. Kane Womack is trying to run a new program. He's trying to recruit. He's trying to, assemble a staff at South. There's just too much to do for you to be able to call a game. And I think that you saw a little bit of that too. So I think those were the two biggest factors in that game, is the fact that you were focused on showing up the Big Ten and the College Football Playoff Committee, with the no patches, the no Big Ten patches on the uniform. And then you have a coordinator who's trying to build a program, trying to start his new career, still coordinating your game. And we saw that last year in the Gator Bowl with Kalen DeBoer after he had taken the job at Fresno State.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt now 2 years in a row because Kalen DeBoer was, man, top notch, but he struggled. They struggled. The offense struggled to get going, and it was the same thing. They couldn't catch up to the end. Now that was different with Nick Sheridan this year. He really had no excuse other than, I guess, he ran out of scripts. Kalen DeBoer scripts to follow, but actually he followed that one to a T because they struggled. But I just wish that they would have been experienced higher. That's it. I mean, I just don't think that. I think it's almost a little arrogant to say, okay, not only are we going to do this, but we're going to do it with no experience along the way. But at the same time, it's hard to argue, man. What he's doing, what nobody else has done. Tom Allen is doing what nobody else has been able to do. So you gotta acknowledge that, and I do. And it's like,
we got to hit a break.
Start wanting a little bit more, but yeah, we got to hit a break here. We got a lot coming up. Taylor Tannenbaum is going to join us on the program today. Looking forward to that later on. So from WTHR in Indianapolis, being fired up about the Colts, man. But a great year for the Colts as they hit the playoffs. The Bills this weekend. Lots of stuff coming up. Lots of football. We got Indiana basketball tonight. Is Wisconsin. Don't forget after the game with Todd Leary, coming to you. Special guest, Indiana volleyball coach Steve Aird on there tonight, too, live from Yogi's. But we're coming back with more Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Make sure you get out there, Zero Sales event, and French Lick Resort Casino. Get down there, check those folks out. We got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. Back right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
It's a mouthful.
Will,
I saw your text.
You accidentally tagged Taylor Lehman.
I was going to say that in the break.
On Twitter, you tagged Taylor Lehman instead of Taylor Tannenbaum.
I didn't know there was. I couldn't find Taylor Tannenbaum. I thought that was Taylor Tannenbaum. Sorry.
Well, did you open it up and look at it? Because had you,
yeah, I did.
You really?
Yeah,
because it's a man. One's a man and one's a woman, so there's a big difference. But one's Taylor Lehman and one's Taylor Tannenbaum, so they all have their names spelled out. If you open it up, it shows pictures of them and who they are.
Did the Colts win their division, or are they just a wild card?
I think they end up being a wild card because they lost they lost a head-to-head. I think is why. I think Tennessee is still winning the AFC South. Is Tennessee in the playoffs?
I believe so.
Also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon Avenue.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back. On this Thursday, thanks to the fine folks at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Zero sales event going on out there. You know where they are, right off of 37, 22nd, 3rd Street. 1441 Liberty Drive is the actual address. Get out there. You can get in one of those and drive it straight on down to French Lick Resort and Casino and have a nice weekend. Because there's plenty of games to bet on this weekend, Dustin. One thing not to bet on those, the Heisman race, that's over. Not a surprise there. A surprise if you looked at it from going into the season, because I think Trevor Lawrence would have been, it's kind of hard to bet against him coming into this season. But man, oh man, it just didn't happen for him. A wide receiver for the first time in nearly 3 decades takes home the Heisman.
Yeah, that was awesome to see, because you look at the history of the Heisman, it's basically become a quarterback award, and with a smattering of an occasional running back winning it. And, sometimes these things go through cycles. A lot of time, there was a period where it seemed like a running back award. And to see Devontae Smith, who was by far the best player in college football this season, win that award, it was nice to see, because like you said, we haven't seen a wide receiver win it. since Desmond Howard, I believe. And you know, for that streak to end, he was by far the best player. And you watch him throughout the season. Like there were times I cover the Big Ten, so I don't see a whole lot of SEC. But I would tune in to see him because, man, he's one of the best wide receivers. You know, you think about some of those receivers that have gone through Alabama, Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones, and you know the list goes on. And for him to win the Heisman, and a little bit interesting too, because there were some people who thought that Trevor might win by default because they thought Mac Jones, the quarterback at Alabama, and Devontae Smith would share votes, and essentially Trevor Lawrence would almost win it by default. But obviously that didn't happen. A lot of faith in Devontae Smith, and it's really cool to see them open it up and not just give it to a quarterback anymore. But the one thing that you know, the listeners will, you know, appreciate is that Michael Penix heading into next season already, he is one of the few guys on the Heisman list for the 2021 season, best odds in the Big Ten. So you see, we talked about Indiana getting disrespected by the College Football Playoff Committee in the Big Ten, but hey, people voting on the Heisman, they have a lot of faith in Michael Penix. He's getting some recognition.
Alan listened to us, hit us up on YouTube. Let us know that, yeah, Tennessee did win the South, which is what I thought. They had the head-to-head. Came down to a tiebreaker. But Colts, man, they made it in, man. It's all that matters. But not to get back to that. But, yeah, thanks a lot for that, Alan. Appreciate you listening, by the way. And then Tim hit us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. You can do the same, 812-269-6367, 812-269-6367. Any questions or comments that you might have as well. Let's see where I lost his comment. Where'd he go? Anthony Little needs more playing time. We're going to talk about basketball in a minute. We will talk about that. Anthony Little does need more time, but where were we?
Michael Penix, Heisman Trophy, baby. I mean, he's finally getting that.
Man, can you imagine had he been able to finish the season?
Oh yeah,
because this is based off of Indiana going 6-1, and it really cracks me up. They have used Indiana. If you had them, you could put Indiana in each hand, and on this hand, like of a scale. Oh well, man, the Indiana gave these teams a tough game. Ohio State a tough game. Ohio State, blah blah blah. Oh well, Indiana played in the Big Ten. It was a very very bad year. It's like it swings the other way depending on what they want to use it for. It's just so weird. But had Michael Penix been able, because that's what I was going to say, is that probably is based mainly off of the Ohio State game. 491 yards. You almost knock off a team that's playing for a national championship. Probably easily could have beaten them. But that's based off of that performance. They know what he can do, and he can do that because that's why Indiana got a lot less respect after he went down. Yeah. And it was a little aggravating, but you know the truth of the matter is those people were right. Indiana's not the same team without Michael Penix. That offense is not. It is not a Porsche. It's a Porsche with Michael Penix driving, and I'm telling you, it is a freaking Porsche. Without it, it's a really nice, solid, well-built new car. But with Michael Penix, that thing's a Porsche, and that's no joke. And it was a huge difference, and he made a big difference.
Yeah, and that's what you expect out of a guy who's getting respect in the Heisman Trophy race for next season, for him to make that kind of a difference. So, you know, you look at, and I go back to, I'm going to botch these years, but you go back a decade, and how big of a difference does it make to be on a winning team to finish the year 6-2, even though you lost that Outback Bowl? Think about Tevin Coleman, who rushed for, I think, over 2,000 yards in 2013 or 14, somewhere in that area. I'm not sure in my years. Never was considered a Heisman candidate because Indiana was finishing 4-8 or 5-7 or 3-9. He was an explosive, and he's had a solid NFL career. He was an explosive running back.
Name me one. There's only been 18, 19, less than 20 guys to rush for 2,000 yards in the history of college football. Name me one of those guys that did that in the modern age that was not a Heisman finalist.
I can name you one right now, and it's Jonathan Taylor. So
now how does that happen? How does that happen? I did not realize that.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor last season rushed for over 2,000, like just over, I think 2,004 yards or something like that, and wasn't a Heisman finalist.
Okay, now how does that happen? Now, see, I understand that from if you play on Indiana, But when you play for a team who's Indianapolis Colts right now,
yep,
I don't get that. All that. Well, I do get it. All it is it's all about the hype machine. I mean, these things are predetermined, and there's some change that go into it. Trevor Lawrence, if he did not play for Clemson, and you just looked at his season coming in, or his season that he had, it was nice. Would he have been a finalist? I don't think so. I don't know.
I agree with you, because he had a good season, right? He had a great season, but if you put him,
nice. A lot of people had nice seasons.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you put him on Northwestern or Indiana, or you can name a dozen different schools or more, does he get recognition? And I don't know. It's because it's all about the preseason hype, and it's almost like the preseason rankings. Like, if you start off high, it's really hard to fall off that list, or fall out of the top 25 or so. And there is something to be said. Obviously he was a great player. The only game Clemson lost was when he was not in the lineup. He still had a high completion percentage, threw for a bunch of yards, rushed for a lot of yards. So he had a good season. But I do think you bring up a good point, because I was talking about this last year. If Jonathan Taylor is not in a Wisconsin uniform, if he is wearing an Alabama uniform, or if he's wearing an Ohio State uniform, although I guess J.K. Dobbins also rushed for 2,000 yards last season, wasn't a Heisman finalist, but they already had Chase Young and Justin Fields. So what are you going to do? But it's very interesting how the Heisman Trophy situation works, because it's not just the best player in college football. It's the best player on the best team. And I don't think there was any question this year that Devontae Smith was the best player in college football. Like, I don't think you can make an argument against that, but many times in the past,
got it right.
Exactly. I was too. I thought it was going to get to Mac Jones because it's been a quarterback award.
Yeah, it just never seems to happen. But unfortunately, they got it right, man. It was amazing, because usually you don't. Last night, let's see, we had some college basketball games last night. Where were the scores on there, boy? We had Pittsburgh, Syracuse, 63-60. Tennessee, that was a good one. Number 9, Tennessee over Arkansas, 79-74. Duke edged Boston College at home. Number 21 Duke, 80. How is Duke ranked 21st? I don't know. They 83-82. Louisville, lots of close games last night. Louisville knocks off Virginia Tech at home. Number 19 Virginia Tech, 73-71. It was number 11 Houston shocking the Shockers. Wichita State, 70-63. Baylor, they beat Oklahoma 76-70. Remember, Michigan played
Minnesota, I believe.
Michigan beat Minnesota. They beat Minnesota, right?
Yeah. They're up. They're 10-0. I haven't watched much Michigan basketball, but I need to, apparently.
There we go. It was 82-57. They just destroyed Minnesota. 82-57. Michigan has just emerged as, well, it changes week to week in the Big Ten, but right now they've emerged as I think they're the team at the moment. But like I said, it changes. I mean, Michigan State was there for a second. Boy, it wasn't very long. They were quick and go. But it's Illinois, Iowa's the teams that we've been thinking of. Wisconsin, who Indiana plays tonight. But Michigan, they're 10-0, man. They're 5-0 in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They're the de facto leader in the clubhouse.
And I don't remember anybody really talking about them, and you bring up a good point. We'll see how long it lasts, because, just a few weeks ago, we were talking about Northwestern when they were sitting at 3-0 in the Big Ten, and we were talking about Wisconsin and some of these other teams, but Michigan they have some strong recruiting. Juwan Howard's done a good job with the recruiting classes. They had a really talented roster coming back, but, you just thought, the way they finished last season, I think they were 10-10 in the Big Ten last season. And you thought with the way they finished last year and the depth of the Big Ten that Michigan they'd be good, but nobody, I don't think, saw this coming. 10-0, and they'll be, what are they, number 10, ranked number 10 nationally? They'll be inside that if they close out this week strong.
Yeah, that's just another reason you look at Indiana. They go to Wisconsin tonight to take on a tough Wisconsin team.
Yeah.
It's a tough place to win. I don't expect Indiana to win this game. I don't know who does. But the thing is, there's going to be a ton of those games that you don't expect them to win. They've got to win some of these games. You have to find a way because Michigan at home, it's not going to be any easier, hardly any easier than Michigan on the road. These teams are tough, and that's, you see Juwan Howard, second year, things trending up. You look at Illinois, fourth year, things trending up. Rutgers, things trending up. I don't have to keep going. I mean, it's
Rutgers is probably the best example too, because they were, Illinois had kind of gone back and forth between being a solid Big Ten team and near the bottom. So, and they've always had strong recruiting. That's been a good program, but Rutgers, I know they've had some good seasons, but what Steve Pikiell has done there in such a short period of time, I mean, they may have the best, well, I'm going to say second best player in the Big Ten with Ron Harper Jr. And a few weeks ago, they beat Purdue without him on the floor. So Rutgers is, they are surprisingly good this season. And I know that they had a strong year last year, probably would have made the NCAA tournament, but they are probably the most dangerous and not least talked about team in the Big Ten right now, just because of that history. Basically what Indiana football was this season is Rutgers basketball. They're kind of an afterthought, but they are easily right now playing like one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the conference, I think.
Indiana looked good in the second half against Maryland. They looked atrocious in the first half. Hopefully that second half is what you'll see more of. It will be without Armaan Franklin, I think. He is questionable. Let's just say he's questionable. Don't expect him to play. You've got Parker Stewart, who is a transfer in, who's now on the active roster, but absolutely do not expect him to play. He just got to Bloomington this past weekend. I don't know. I'm sure maybe he has by now, but I don't know what his practice situation has been. Obviously, now being Thursday, you would sure think that he's been working out with the team every day, but haven't gotten that confirmation yet. But I wouldn't expect him to play. I don't know what his shape situation is. But they need him, and they need him now. It's the guy that can shoot the ball. You've got Armaan Franklin out, but you've also got but Anthony Leal, who he looked good in his last game. He's looking a little more comfortable, and I think that's all it's going to take for him just to continue to actually for all of the freshmen to get more comfortable. It's just, man, you get sent out. It's like getting sent out to the woods by yourself every time without a flashlight. It's right. When you're a freshman, man, it's exactly what it's like. It's like, go out in the woods with no flashlight. Come on back. It happens fast, and there's no margin for error.
Right.
And it comes at these guys really, really fast. So getting Parker Stewart going is immensely important for Indiana, especially for what he can bring to this team. Because if you can get somebody that can consistently hit from the outside, Trace Jackson Davis has shown what he can do. Race Thompson, rewatched that game. I really liked watching him. He worked when he was in there. I was watching him. His footwork was good. He was playing defense. He was hustling. He was trying to get rebounds. I really enjoyed watching him. I enjoyed watching Anthony Leal. He wasn't in there a lot, but I was doing the same thing. I watch these guys. I watch their footwork. What are they doing? Where's their head? What are they looking at next? Are they lost? Getting more comfortable. It needs to have happened sooner. That's the problem for Indiana. And that's the problem. That's been the problem every year for Indiana. It doesn't happen soon enough. It just takes too long. Why? We'll leave that up for another discussion. But man, now you go up to Wisconsin tonight and you play at a place where they're beatable, because we just saw Maryland a week and a half ago go up to number 6 Wisconsin and win. But that's a whole different scenario. They need a win.
And the thing that you bring up is, like, I've always liked watching Race Thompson. I've always thought he plays hard. I thought, he's Indiana for a couple years there lacked a guy who brought like that passion to the floor, that guy who's going to do whatever it took to dive on the floor, to get blocks, to get steals, rebounds. He doesn't need to score a lot of points to make a difference in a ball game, even though he has that capability. So I've always liked to watch him play. But what's interesting to me is, you have some of these younger guys who are high 4-star, 5-star recruits who probably could help in a big way. And obviously, as you've said many times, we don't know the practice situation. We don't know what these guys are doing during practice, or, how they look during practice. But when you played, I believe it was Christian Lander, who was this was a couple weeks ago. He was 2 for 2 or 1 for 1 from the floor, and he only played 2 or 3 minutes.
He's only averaging about 3 minutes a game.
You can't get into a rhythm. So either don't play him and allow somebody else to take those minutes, or play him for, it doesn't have to be a lot, but 8 to 10 minutes. Let him get into a rhythm. That's how these guys are going to learn. You can't throw somebody out there for 2 minutes and expect them to develop their game in the game-like situation. So that, to me, is the frustrating part, because there's no doubt that these guys are capable, and they've shown the ability when they've given he walks into a game and 30 seconds in drills a 3-pointer. I mean, that's a guy who he might have missed 4 next shots, but he's got to get experience playing more regularly. You can't just throw a guy out there for 2 minutes and expect him to develop his game. That's not how it's going to work, especially in the Big Ten. You just got to learn by fire. And it's like Archie's afraid to throw these guys in fire and let them learn to walk on their own.
Seen that the whole time. You've always wondered why he never used the bench as a motivator. He just never would bring his bench guys in. It's the same thing. And I agree with you. You not only that, but if you're only out there for 2-3 minutes and you make one mistake and you come out, man, there is no, and you're a freshman and you're a reclassified. How are you going to be how are you going to be confident? How in the world are you going to maintain your confidence if every time you're coming out because of a mistake? And first, then on top of that, you're going into the game with a hook already around your neck.
Yep.
It's like you can't even get too far away from the bench because it's going to jerk you back in there if you do, because you're already, it's already halfway on there. It can't be that. You can't play like that.
You gotta hit a break.
Let them play, man. Let them get in there and go. I don't get it. Like to see the same with Anthony Leal. It's the same thing. Let him get into a flow. Let him get comfortable, because he's looking a little more comfortable. I also know that it's when you're in a game, it's costly, because your goal is to win the game, and you can't have somebody out there that's going to allow too many mistakes. It's a tough road, but you got to find a way to develop the talent along the way. If you're going to lose, sometimes lose and use it to a positive way. Develop the talent to not lose as much. Hey, we got to take a break. We got plenty more coming up. Taylor Tannenbaum from WTHR Indianapolis is going to join us in a little bit. We'll talk to her later on, but we got plenty more to get to. Indiana taking on Wisconsin tonight. Don't forget, after the game with Todd Leary coming to you live from Yogi's, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and French Lake Resort Casino. But looking forward to that. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat. We're back with more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65.
He said he was filling up his water.
Oh.
When do we have Noah's replacement coming on?
I don't know. The guy, he's already working for one guy's working for the Hoosiers. He's supposed to be trained. I forgot about him.
And they're already trained?
No, he's not. That's what I'm saying.
Because we'll probably need to start getting them trained up here soon, because Noah leaves at the end of the month.
Yeah, I hate that too. He's doing so awesome now. It sucks.
Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, every time, man. I was like, dude.
Once they get into a rhythm, once they get it all figured out, then
gosh darn it. So
will he take over Noah's days, or how his schedule?
I don't know. I'm gonna wait. I mean, I rather wish it was just more consistent. I'd rather have one. It was you were doing it all. One person was doing it all the time, just to make it more consistent, but just not possible.
The only day I can't do it is Monday.
Yeah. What is you do on Monday? I forget.
School.
Oh, that stupid little thing.
Still in high school.
That's it. That crap in the way. Yes, school.
Economics.
Economics.
It may be important.
Yeah, you probably should learn that.
Yeah, I think I skipped that class, so you can tell.
Just supply and demand and elasticity. It's funny.
Buy low, sell high.
Yeah, there you go. There's another good one for you.
Well, we got a few Big Ten games tonight. Iowa, Maryland, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Illinois, Northwestern. Ooh, Illinois at Northwestern.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about last night. Because last night, the Ohio State-Penn State game was canceled.
Ohio State had a game canceled?
Ohio State-Penn State basketball was canceled last night.
Didn't know that.
a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon Avenue.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat coming to you here on this Thursday from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, of course. Brought to you by the fine folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Zero sales event going on right now. Get out there and get you fine Hondas. You can drive on down to French Lake Resort and Casino. They're open and ready for you, man. Plenty of games to bet on. We'll be looking forward to talking about those. But tonight, plenty of college hoops in addition to Indiana taking on Wisconsin. That game, by the way, is at 7 p.m. That means after the game will be coming to you approximately around 9. Oregon, number 17, Oregon's travels to Colorado to take on the Buffs. That should be a good game. 7-3 Colorado, 8-1, number 17, Oregon. Number 5, Iowa. They're 9-2 overall, 3-1 of the Big Ten. They travel to Maryland. Maryland is 6-5. They're hovering. Indiana and Maryland. They're going to be, I think, just kind of rolling around, swapping this year. Maryland's just 1-4 in the Big Ten.
But that one win was a big one. They did get Wisconsin. So
on the road.
Yep.
Very important. That's very important in the tournament because Maryland, Indiana, they're going to end up like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, I think. It's down that. So those wins, uber importance to getting in the NCAA tournament because there's going to be, I don't know, maybe 2 Big Ten teams that get into this tournament with a losing conference record for certain.
Yeah, I think, you're talking about 10 to, depending on how this thing turns out, you're talking about 10 to 11 teams potentially getting in the NCAA tournament. I don't remember how many we thought were going to get in last year, but it was 9 or 10, and they think that even more could get in this year. So it's just such a highly competitive league that, even you look at Maryland, typically look at that and say, hey, 1-4 in the Big Ten, that's going to be an easy win for us. No, these teams can beat anybody. There is not an easy game on that schedule outside of maybe, Nebraska's not playing very well. But you look at Penn State, they beat Virginia Tech this season. Virginia Tech's a really good basketball team. They crushed Virginia Tech. So
yeah, there's no nights off. Even Nebraska. Nebraska's the weak link for sure, but they're going to get somebody if they haven't already. I haven't looked at their record, but Illinois and Northwestern, they travel to Northwestern tonight. They go up to Evanston. That should be a good game. Northwestern's playing well, 3-2 in the Big Ten right now, 6-3 overall. Illinois at 4-1 of the Big Ten, 8-3 overall. They're trying to remain up at the top, chasing Michigan and those guys. That should be a good game. The line's got Illinois favored by 7. Indiana's an 8-point dog at Wisconsin. Of course, that's a place where Indiana just does not win. That's a team that Indiana does not beat hardly in the last 30 years, which it used to be the opposite. When Todd and those guys were playing, they hadn't lost to them in like 3 decades. Now it's changed. And
the funny thing is I have some friends that have gone and big IU fans that have graduated from Indiana, and it's every time the Wisconsin game comes on, I guarantee you Indiana loses by 4 points. It's like it always is a close game, but for whatever reason, Indiana has not been able to get over the hump with Wisconsin, and it's probably one of the more frustrating matchups ever because each time they play, it looks like Indiana should win that game, whether it's home or away, and they just come up on the short end. So maybe they got that 2-game. I was pretty negative last week when I was talking about Indiana because of that win against Penn State overtime, but you got an overtime win against Penn State. You played well in the second half. Maybe there's some momentum. That's what we have seen under this Archie Miller coach team, is some momentum. Can they get 3 straight? This would be a big one if they could get this one on the road.
Arkansas's had a good year. Of course, Justin Smith transferred to Arkansas from Indiana. Alan asked, do you know what injury he has, or Justin Smith has, who watched the game just to see if he played any different? I do not know. I have not followed them at all, other than to see that they were having a decent year, but they hadn't played anybody. They were like 9-0, but they had beaten no one. But I know nothing about what's going on down there. I wouldn't. So I don't know anything about his injury, but I do know that Indiana needs to keep things. I think Indiana, they just need to go 500. They go 500 the rest of the year, they're in the tournament easy, because they're sitting at 7-4 right now, and all those teams I just called off. Maryland, they're like 6-5, barely over. You've got Northwestern at 6-3. You just got to go 500. You just got to go chalk the rest of the way, and you're in the tournament. Now, just getting in the tournament, is that enough? Well, that'd be enough probably for a lot of IU fans right now, as opposed to missing the tournament. But is that enough for you right now, just getting into this tournament? Is that okay? Because we'll see. I think that's where they are.
I think so too. By Indiana's basketball standards, no, it shouldn't be enough. But at the same time, when you've missed the tournament, they would have made it last year, but when you missed the tournament, 3 or 4 straight years, going back to the end of Tom Crean's time, you have to just win. At some point, you have to take that next step. You have to crawl before you can walk, and just getting into the tournament would be a nice step in the right direction. And they haven't been able to do that yet. So I think even though you want to get to the Final Four, you want to win Big Ten championships, you want to start competing for national championships again, you have to get into the tournament before you can do any of that.
Yep. Yesterday I was lucky enough to have Eric Gordon Sr. on. He joins us periodically. We love having him on. And I was talking about Eric Jr. He's having a good start to the year. He's averaging about 20 points. I was looking through his stats, man. He's coming off the bench, and he was the second highest scorer last night for him. Last night, another 20 points. But they lose to the Pacers. I didn't realize they were actually playing in Indianapolis yesterday. I hadn't checked the schedule yet, but they lose to the Pacers last night. Pacers looking good, 114-107 as they knock off the Rockets. Rockets are only 2-4 though, 0-3 on the road. Pacers right now 6-2, 4-2 at home. Are rolling, man. They're looking good. Victor's looking good. Things are looking nice.
Yeah. I've watched all but that New Year's Eve game, and they look good. They've got the outside presence. They've got the defense. Oladipo played great in that win against New Orleans. Hit a big 3 and then got a steal, and Miles Turner knocked down a 3 to send it to overtime. That was an exciting a game. I think I scared my dog just celebrating that after watching them cut back a 10-point deficit. But Victor looks good. There was a lot of talk about him wanting to leave Indiana and maybe his heart not being in it this season. There's no remnants. You don't see any of that. He's playing hard. He's knocking down shots. He's getting to the basket. He's playing really good defensively. So this is just a really fun team. They have all the pieces. They finally have the right head coach. It looks like somebody who's using their offensive strengths. They're shooting the 3 ball well. They're one of the best teams in the NBA right now, and I hope you can keep that up, because it's been kind of a weird year with teams losing by 40 and 50 points, and some teams being better than they were a season ago. But I think Indiana is the real deal. I think because they lost to Boston 6-2. They should be 7-1. They had a 17-point lead in that game in the fourth quarter, I think, and end up blowing it. So it's a fun team to watch. So if you're not on the bandwagon, go ahead and hop on. That's why I'm wearing my shirt today, Indiana Pacers, because I'm fired up about it.
Hey, man, I love the Pacers and racing. I love it. A former Notre Dame men's basketball assistant has been charged with 3 counts of voyeurism, 1 count of domestic battery. How about that's craziness? Charges filed Tuesday stem from Ryan Ayers' relationship with 2 women over a 4-year span, in which he allegedly recorded them naked or while having sex without their consent. Is also accused of hitting one of the women in the face during a fight in his car in July. That's always sucks to see that kind of stuff, but man, hate to see that. Especially you don't see that stuff from like Notre Dame coaches. That's a rarity to see that. The Zags, man, how about is this their year? I just, you talk, that's a team that they fight for legitimacy. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that say, oh, no, they're a solid, legit program, and they are, but they just have not, when you say they haven't gotten over the hump, well, they haven't won a national championship, but who the hell has? A lot of teams haven't won a national championship. A lot of teams haven't even competed for a national championship. They've been in the hunt for a minute now, year after year. So I think it hurts them playing out there in that weak ass conference they play in. You don't get tested, man. You don't get battle tested. You win, you go 20-2, and that looks pretty on paper. But what happens when you get to the big boys is by that fourth game against the big boys, you're wearing down. You're seeing so many different styles of play, and you don't see that out there in that conference. You don't see superior athletes in that conference. So that's, to me, it's a difference. That's why you don't see successful teams come from weak conferences. That's why the ACC sucks in football, and I knew the Clemson was going to get beat.
Yeah, no, I mean, you bring up a great point because they've won Final Four, and I think they played in the national championship game that year that they made the Final Four. So they had one, but typically, I mean, they're, like you said, they're really good. But after, when you play in those tournaments, you play these bigger bodies and more talented guys, it starts to wear on you, and you see that. Because we've seen them have really good seasons and be a number 1 seed or a number 2 seed and get knocked out of the tournament fairly early. So they have a great program. Mark Few's done a wonderful job, but I think what you're starting to see it, and I'd have to go back and do the history on this, but you start to see Gonzaga is starting to schedule tougher opponents in the non-conference. So that way they can get some of that experience. But when you go, what they need to do is almost need to split up, if they could, their conference schedule and play like a Baylor or play in Illinois or play, a big time program in the middle of their conference schedule, because as much as you play those big name teams early in the non-conference schedule, you play 18 to 20 games against teams in the whatever conference they play in, the WCC or whatever it is. You're not going to get challenged as much. That's why they have one loss or they're undefeated in conference play pretty much every year. They just don't get challenged, and then translates to the NCAA tournament. So, but I mean, they've had some good runs. They've been a solid program for a long time, but that is their biggest issue, is that when they don't get challenged, it hurts you in the long run.
Well, look at Hunter Dickinson, Michigan. His latest performance, 28 points. He led 10th ranked to Michigan over number 16 Minnesota, 82-57. Okay, that's number 16 Minnesota. Well, he gets to play Iowa. He gets to play Illinois. He gets to play. I can go on and on and on. That's who you're bumping up against. Luka Garza. That's who iron sharpens iron. You hear him talk about it all the time. Iron sharpens iron. If you're playing those guys night in and night out, you have to learn to get better, or you lose. It's simple. You don't have to do that when you're playing against superior talent night in and night out. I think it makes a huge difference.
No, it absolutely does. And because you can play, I mean, in the Big Ten, you can't play your worst game and expect to win no matter who you're playing. In that conference, absolutely, you can have the worst performance you've had in years and you might still get a win. Just because I can't even think of another team, maybe St. Francis or St. Mary's out there. They have a decent program every now and then, but there aren't very many teams that give Gonzaga a run. I'd like to know how many times in a row they've won their conference, because it has to be almost record breaking, I would think, at this point, because I don't ever see anybody else winning that conference.
Kind of like Kansas in the Big 12 there.
Yes.
But you know what? I'm looking at a picture from that Michigan game yesterday, and it's what's going to be funny to me is 10 years from now, or maybe even longer, when kids are looking at these pictures, and it's this great basketball picture, but in the background, all you see are these cutouts of people in the seats, and they're going to be like, "What's with that, man? What's going on there?" Can you imagine looking at that, going through this pandemic and saying, "What the hell? What do y'all got cartoons in your seats for?"
Did people not used to go to basketball games or football games? It's gonna be crazy when kids start to see that, who aren't born or too young to know what's really going on right now. That's gonna be hey, you're going to have stories. I mean, parents and grandparents are going to have stories about this, right? So they're going to start asking about the pandemic of 2020 and 2021.
Hey, the thing is, how long is it going to take? I wonder, really, to get back. And every time I see a highlight from a game anytime prior to this season, it almost makes me want to cry. I mean,
yeah.
Buddy, you talk about, I cannot imagine what it's going to be like to go back into that first arena. Not so much a stadium, but an arena, and that noise and then that feeling and all of that. Because every time you watch a highlight, you just want to lower your head and cry because the difference is unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just so crazy to see, what we're doing. But I think I'm hopeful. I'm going to say I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic that by next fall. And maybe even maybe by summer, maybe by baseball season, we'll start to see more fans attending games. And hopefully that sets up. I don't think we're going to see full stadiums, full arenas. But if we can get back to a point where we're allowed half capacity or just something to give that energy to create some sort of home field or home court advantage, then, like I said, I think hopefully we see that by 2021 football season. But we'll see. It's everything's always changing, and hopefully we get this thing taken care of because it is, you look back and you watch the crowd reaction. That alone, you don't even have to watch the play, just watch the crowd reaction. And you just get that feeling in your gut. Like, I can't wait to get back to an arena or a stadium and watch this stuff live and take it all in and enjoy the experience because, that's why we love sports, live experience.
Absolutely. Speaking of sports, Taylor Tannenbaum from WTHR Sports is going to join us next here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. We'll be back with more, courtesy of the great folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Make sure you go by there. They've got a zero sales event going on, 1441 Liberty Drive between 2nd and 3rd Street, right off of 37 in Bloomington. Also, get down to see the great folks at French Slick Resort and Casino. They're ready and waiting for you. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. Back with more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast.
I did see that I think the Pacers are going to try to allow fans sometime in January.
One sport they don't have to worry about too many fans coming to is NASCAR.
That's what I kept saying last year, but well, that's why they should let. But see, that's the ones they should let them in. You got thousands of seats spread out all over the damn place outside.
Yep. Golf is another one.
Yeah. There's a golf course in a weird place in Washington State that is actually accessed through Canada that has not been able to be played for like 7 or 9 months because of this, because you cannot get across the Canadian border now. And therefore you can't get to the golf course.
Oh my gosh. So is it like half in Canada, half in Washington?
Something like, no, well, it's like a finger that drips down from Canada across the line with water around it.
Okay.
I was like, how in the hell is that even possible, man?
Hello.
Hey, Taylor.
What's going on?
Dustin Sheardy from Saturday Tradition joining us. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. You can see my mini studio in the background here.
Dustin coming. We're trying to get Dustin to come out of the closet.
Oh, yeah. I see you're stuck in there. You can do laundry in there. You can do laundry in there while you're at it, though.
He does.
There you go.
He won't do mine, though. I've tried to get him to do mine. He won't do it. That's a great point.
What's going on with you guys?
She said he should be doing laundry while you're doing it. And I said, you won't do mine.
I see it in there.
Oh, yeah. You want to send it? You can send it down to Kennesaw. You might have to pay a heavy postage fee for that.
Probably.
You look cold.
No, I try to keep it pretty normal in here.
That's me. I'm
From 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday,
wear a
featuring a
hooded
sandwich,
sweatshirt.
fries,
I'm
or onion
always
rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon Avenue.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Schools, preppy girls never looked at me. Why should they? I ain't nobody, got nothing in my pocket.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you on this Thursday. Dustin Schutte sitting in with as always, and now we've got the great Taylor Tannenbaum with us from WTHR. Taylor, how are you?
Good. How are you? Good morning.
Great. Been a great year. Man, you've been busy. The Colts, the Pacers going on, even through all this. I see you all out there with Dave all the time, man. You guys are busy getting at it. Been a fun year, even though it's been a weird year. Seems like it's still been fun. Got the Colts in the playoffs. Good stuff.
I'm grateful. I got to say I'm grateful because there's a lot of people whose jobs been put on hold or have changed a lot. And while, yes, as you can see, if you're watching behind me, I have my tripod. I do a lot of stuff from home now from my living room.
I was laughing.
Some things have changed. I'm still able to cover a lot of the great things because, the NFL, the NBA, the NCAA now has really tried to do things safely. So it's given me my platform to still continue to cover sports, and I'm grateful for that. So, and it's been a lot of fun, like you said.
Yeah, I was just talking to Dustin. I just got back from Tampa from the Outback Bowl, and it's, man, without fans, it's just everything is so different, and it sucks. It really does. It's just, and I can imagine what it's like for the players, but just the event and all that, it's that energy's not there. It's not as fun. It's not as fun for me to go cover stuff without fans, and I didn't really think about that until I was doing it. But it's not as fun.
It's strange. What I think of is the Colts isn't as bad because they do have some fans, and you're in the press box. But I went to Pacers opening night and against the Knicks, and you just find yourself sometimes just like on the laptop, not realizing there's still a game being played because there's no one around you screaming when something happens. Mm-hmm. So it forces you to look up, if you're doing something else. And in that case, it was just like, they did a great job of pumping noise in and you had the band there. But I found at points, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot they're still playing a basketball game.
Yeah, the crowd noise, I'm kind of over that.
It's weird.
At Assembly Hall, it's a weird sound. It doesn't rise or lower. It doesn't change. It's there during commercials. It's like, it's a little weird. Speaking of the Pacers, I told Dustin I had luckily had Eric Gordon Sr. on with us yesterday. He comes on with us frequently. And I didn't even realize that the Rockets were playing the Pacers last night because they'd been so busy doing other stuff. But the Pacers with another win. Eric's been having a great year, another 20-point night for him off the bench. But Pacers, they're staying at it, man. They're rolling, looking good.
They look good. I see you're rocking your Indiana Pacers shirt there. They're a fun team to watch. Like, if I know a lot of people don't have Fox Sports Indiana because of the whole cable deal and
it drives me nuts.
I know, and I do, and I'm grateful because actually it is a lot of fun to watch. And I've spoken to a player or two who obviously outside of conferences, and they're just having fun playing for this coach. He lets them be free, and you can see. Look at Malcolm Brogdon. I think he's averaging 27 points a game now. Granted, he's healthy. But he's having fun. They're allowed to do what they want. Miles is dominating the league in blocks. They're being themselves, and they don't feel like they're being controlled. And I think that is, and not to say that Nate McMillan was controlling them. I just think it's a new system, and it's allowing them to play free and be themselves. And you're seeing it translate. And just the scoring has been fun. The defense has been fun. If they keep this up, they're really going to be competitive. You just kind of knock on wood for this health thing. I know we have the TJ Warren issue, but hopefully it's early. So, good news is they're fixing that issue sooner than later.
Yeah, where it's not early for is the Colts, who made a big charge late. Matt Taylor's on with us each Monday, and we were following through that as the season was coming down. It was like, oh man, you had those games with Green Bay and Pittsburgh that could go either way. Then you have to depend on other people who's going to do what, and they make it. Don't win the division, but make it into the playoffs. They're playing well. And, man, it's been a great season for the Colts. I guess a little surprising, I'd say.
It's been It's been fun. Yeah, surprising only because when you stop and think about it, I know a lot of people have talked about it, is just the turnaround from last year. You have your franchise quarterback retire. It was just a rocky year. You know, you're trying to make things work with Jacoby. Then you get Phillip this year. It was kind of rocky in the beginning with him. You were still like, oh, this is the same Phillip Rivers, you know, and then everything just turned around. It was like mid-October, everything just really turned around. And it's been cool to see. I mean, this team has a good vibe and they're clicking at the right time, which I think is important. 6 of their last 8. And I know the Bills are going to be tough, man. The Bills are really good, but I do believe that if they play the right way, if a certain few things that they did, they can run the ball like they have been, and the defense can do enough. If it turns into a track meet, it's not happening. But if the defense can do enough they can score enough to keep it, if they keep it low. If it's a track meet, I just don't see it happening. But I like this team, and I know a lot of people aren't picking them, but I have a good feeling. I'm happy for them.
Forrest points out the 6th seed Tennessee won the division with a better record. Go ahead, Dustin.
Well, I was going to say, you know, covering the Big Ten, I was able to watch 3 years of Jonathan Taylor, and we all thought he was an NFL back basically from his first carry in the Big Ten. Yeah. But sometimes that transition might take some time. Do you get the sense that this is what the Colts expected from Jonathan Taylor, or is he outperforming even what the expectation was?
I mean, right now, I would say after Saturday, outperforming. I don't. Here's the after this past Saturday, but here's the other thing: is no one expected him to have this big of a role this early. You expected that to be Marlon Mack, you really did, and you knew JT was going to come in and ease himself in. But what I credit to him is he's young, and he came in, and while he had some of those struggles in early November, he stepped into a role that was with a back that got hurt, that was expected to do really big things this year. And they really haven't fallen off. They did for a little bit, but at this point, I mean, Marlon's a free agent. I wonder what's going to happen in that situation because Jonathan has really earned his keep. So I would say at this point, he's exceeding their expectations, but they did move up in that second round to get him. So I think eventually they expected him to be this good, right? But I don't think this early.
You know, and you look at the names that when he's breaking a record here, they're like the 253 yards he had.
Right.
Edgerrin James, man, you think of that name's like, oh, then you start thinking of those teams and that type of offense. And you have to have a back like this to have that kind of offense. And they do, even with Phillip Rivers, who is more of a manager.
Right.
Then a guy in his prime. When he's not in his prime, that's okay. But you can, if you have a running game like that, you can have just a manager. And actually, sometimes it's better because you seem to make less mistakes.
Agree, and that's exactly how I feel now. As I know, a lot of people sometimes want the quarterback to be the savior. You want an Aaron Rodgers that or a Deshaun Watson who comes out with under a minute left, and you still feel like you can win the game. Right? That's not always going to be the case. But when you can build leads the way that they can, and sometimes last couple of weeks they've lost them, but they are able to build these leads because their run game is working, and Phillip is able to just do his job, period. And if you need him, you still don't not trust him. You know, you still kind of feel like he can do the job if you need him to. But I agree with the same point. They're able to run the ball, and then you have Phillip who's just able to do his job, and that is so important. He's not, rarely at this point is he going to lose you the game. And I think
a great example of that, Dustin, was Indiana in the Outback Bowl. Their inability to run the ball against a team who couldn't stop the run all year basically was their undoing, because you had a quarterback that was kind of a manager situation with Jack Tuttle, who's come in and did a little bit more management than with having Peyton or having Michael Penix in there. But there's not a lot to manage when you don't have a running game.
Right. And I think that's a big thing with the Bills this weekend.
Yeah.
I think because they're not good against the run. They have been a little bit lately, but they're not good against the run. So if you can get the run going, the Colts can be good to go. That's how they get their shoe in. But if they can't, then it's going to turn into something that they're probably not the situation they don't want to be in.
Well, Dustin, we see this a lot. There's no doubt Buffalo is probably the better team. They've had the better season. They've looked better more. But everything has to be the right fit. And sometimes you go up against the wrong team and it's just the wrong fit. And this is close to being one of those situations because you pointed out their inability to the run. And if that run continues, that causes all kinds of problems, because if you're running the ball successfully, you got the ball in your hands a lot more than they do, and you can't score if you don't have the ball.
And I wonder too, if you're going to control that's what you're able to do when you're able to run the football. You're able to control the clock. So if you're able to wear down Buffalo's defense, and if you're able to, if Jonathan Taylor continues, then I'm sorry I'm talking about him a lot, but that's what I'm more familiar with. But if you're able to run him more frequently, exactly. Well, got to cover him for 3 years. How could you not love that guy? First of all, a great running back, and then an even better person. But when you're able to control that, if he's able to wear down that defense, it's going to give the Colts probably a much better shot to win that game than most people would expect, because you just can control, and then you wear down that defense, and over a 60-minute game, that's going to play into the hands of the Colts, I would say.
Keep Josh Allen off the field.
And the Bills, though, they're a team. It's fun to watch the Bills because they're one of the teams that they've sucked for a long time. So it's always fun to see some teams come up. You just don't want to see them against the team that you're wanting to see do well. So, but that's going on. Hey, Taylor, if you've got a few minutes, we'd love to have you stick around. If not, no problem. But Reggie Wayne and Peyton Manning, Hall of Fame nominees, all that. Love to talk about that if you can stick around for just a few more minutes.
Totally. I'm here.
Right, let's take a quick break. We've got Taylor Tannenbaum from WTHR. Of course, Dustin Schutte sitting in with us as well. Andy Moore, Honda Bloomington Zero Sales Event. Make sure you get out there and take that out. We'll be back with more to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 30.
Well, it sure is fun doing it with professionals. It makes it a lot easier and a lot more fun.
What?
You just go on. Hey, it's easy to have conversations all day.
Oh yeah.
Bam.
How's B-Town? I haven't been, man. I want to come to Bloomington.
Dude, well, you need to. Come to Yogi's, come when you come down, let me know. We'll go to Yonkos. I like to go to Yonkos.
You're going to have to show me around, because I really have never, aside from coming for a game and leaving, I've never been to anywhere.
Dude, you got to come down, or after a game, go to Yonkos. It's a high. It's like Harry and Izzy's level of steakhouse.
I'm in.
It's good stuff.
You'll be the tour guide.
Plus, and it's easy to get a seat right now.
I know. There's people on campus, right?
I think they're back. I don't know. I don't know that they're back yet. It's hard to. Here's the thing that I kept hearing from. There are people that have all these leases, even though they're doing online, they're like, hell, I'm going back down to school because I got a lease, and why do I want to sit here with mom and dad? I can go back down to school.
For sure. That's what I've done.
I haven't seen a ton of people, like I do the post-game shows at Yogi's with Todd after the games, and haven't seen depending on when they get, a lot of them are late, of course, but I haven't seen a ton of people in there during those games. It sucks.
I know. I hate it. And for the businesses, I hate it. It sucks.
It does, man.
I was going to try to do that next Thursday. IU-Purdue, but there's no way. They're going to approve a credential. There's like 5 people I think that can go.
That's another thing, yeah.
So
I've seen a couple TV people there. I've seen Wish there. I've seen JoJo was there once. Not a lot, though.
I just know for that game, there's going to be about 1 million requests.
Dude, they've already, he's sending them out like 2 weeks in advance, too.
I saw JD's email.
And it's so, well, the thing is, like the other day, he sent one out and it was for Nebraska, which they're playing after Wisconsin, and they're just going from Wisconsin to Nebraska. But I just saw one that said, last call for Nebraska. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm in. I thought I'd missed.
You go to every game?
Not the away games. Home games, yeah, but I thought I'd missed a home game. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm in. And he's like, you're going to Nebraska? I'm like, no, I thought I missed one. My bad.
Right, no, I know.
Hey, Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon Avenue.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
That's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Now that ain't working. That's the way you do it.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat coming to you here on this Thursday, January 7th. Happy birthday, Dad. I'm glad I wrote that down as a reminder. The incomparable Taylor Tannenbaum with us from WTHR. Of course, Dustin Schutte sitting in as well. Taylor, yesterday, or the Hall of Fame announcements, Peyton Manning and Reggie Wayne, of course, how in the world could they both not go in together? But nominated, that's just one of those things, boy. That's an automatic. It's just like a stamp.
Yeah, I mean, you knew this was going to happen. It's like, is the sky blue? But they do deserve to go in together. I think it would be so great. Obviously, I know Mike Chappell is gonna do his thing in there, present them in all their glory. And the good part is it would be this summer, which is also when they're doing last year's, which means Edge is also going in.
Wow. Oh, didn't realize that. That is awesome.
Yeah, so because they had to postpone the enshrinement and all that stuff. So to have all three of them, I know it's not the same class, but it just in the same breath would be really, really cool.
Close enough for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure people will take that into consideration when it comes to voting and all that good stuff. So, but obviously Peyton Manning stands alone, but half the reason he was as great as he is because he had the receiver that he did.
You know what I love most about seeing that is I know that we'll get to hear, oh man, Peyton and Reggie and Edge, man, I got all of them in the Hall of Fame, man. It's so cool.
That is so good.
I love hearing him talk, man. He is the coolest. I love
he's great.
He's got to be the coolest owner. I know everybody doesn't like him, but he's got to be one of the coolest owners in sports, man. He's just funny.
He's great. He is who he is. He embraces it. I love it.
Community, very, very active in the community. Just a real. He's kind of a different owner in a lot of different ways. Yeah. But and some of those different ways are really good. It's just a cool. It's a unique. I forget who. I think it was Mike DeCourcy I was talking about. Indianapolis's love of the Colts. It's real, number one, but it's. I don't want to say weird, but it's different because they came here in '84. They were planted here, so it's not like there was any roots. There was nothing, no connections, zero. And buddy, from word go, it's just they've just been in love with them. And of course, Peyton Manning really sent that over the top. But it's a great thing to see because you see that in the old football towns, Kansas City and all those places where they've had it forever. But man, Indianapolis, the love for their team, I put it right there. It's up there.
No, it's true. And they travel well because a couple of times we've been on the road. They travel well. And I moved here from Florida, so I know Indiana's all about basketball. And to see people care so much about football is like, I was like, wow, okay. They really love their Colts here. That's the bread. That really is I know you have the Pacers, but the Colts are the bread and butter.
And Dustin, I know you've seen it from close up, but it's man, the NFL is an old school league. And like you talk about all these teams, the Dallas and Houston and Kansas City and all those old AFL teams, they're just old school teams. And this is just a new thing, but man, the feel, it has an old school feel to it.
Yeah, and the one thing I credit Peyton Manning to is, when I was growing up, it was all basketball. That was all we were talking about. It was IU Purdue. It was the Pacers. It was still high school basketball. But there was almost this shift when the Colts got really good and Peyton and they were in the playoffs frequently and they were challenging for Super Bowls. And you had that rivalry with Tom Brady at New England. It was almost like the state. Indiana is always going to be a basketball first state, but it was almost like there was this shift from, okay, we're only caring about basketball and auto racing. And now all of a sudden, even it seeped into the high school levels where football became a big deal. And credit that a little bit to, what Joe Tiller did at Purdue around that same time. And Purdue was competitive. And obviously there's Notre Dame, but it was just so interesting to me because growing up, it was always about basketball. And then all of a sudden you get the Colts and you have this legendary NFL quarterback who comes in, Peyton Manning, and you have these great receivers and all-star running backs. And it just changed how the state viewed football. And it has catapulted ever since. I mean, this state now loves football.
Well, you look at Indiana University. I mean, you can hope that they can catapult off of that and carry that love forward too. But I had, who was it? It was it was Kyle Neddenrep was on with us yesterday, Taylor. And you've got Cathedral that has teammates playing against each other in a national championship, along with DeJuan Jones, who's also starting for Ohio. Right. All from Indianapolis high schools. But the two teammates, that's mind-boggling. These guys are playing in the national championship, and they're playing, and they were teammates. That's a cool but wild story.
So cool. And I said I was from Florida, but I worked in Alabama before this. So when I got here, people were like, you know, you do high school on Friday nights, you know, we do Operation Football on WTHR, and people are like, you know, it's not going to be the same as Alabama football, you know, like high school football, but it is. I kid you not. The fans are just as rabid. The teams are just, I mean, granted, you get a lot more down there of people who are going to like Alabama, Auburn, a lot more SEC talent, I would say, but maybe they just haven't been found here yet. But there are some good football teams here with players who are going to these Division I top tier Power 5 teams. And I promise you, I know maybe it just doesn't get the hype that like Alabama does because that's all that they have there. But the football here is good. It's really, really good. And I guess you credit that shift that you were talking about when you were a kid, Dustin. You know that I came here late. So for me, I just see that people like football here. And I'm confused because I'm like, I swear everyone told me this is just a basketball state. So I found that really interesting. I think that's really cool.
Well, the basketball thing is just hard to get away from because it's a high school thing and it's been there for so long. And then when you have IU that wins 5 national championships, just solidifies that. And people just want to win. I almost don't even care what it is. If you're winning, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And the winning came so easily and for so long in basketball. It is and then the high schools just became Indiana is the basketball state. We haven't even talked about the fact that the entire tournament is going to be here, Taylor. That's going to be, I'm enjoying the heck of it, but I know you guys, because you're right in the middle of it. That's going to be just the coolest thing in the world. The Hinkle aspect. There's just so many cool things about this. It's awesome.
Oh, I'm so excited for Indy in general because I know how hard they've been hit by this pandemic. I'm excited that people outside of Indy are going to get to really see the city in a different, this is going to be on 24/7 for a month pretty much, you know? And I'm excited to see, you know, how Sports Court puts it on, and because they're incredible at putting on events. And I just want to see how this gets pulled off because I think it's incredible. I know the brains behind this have been up 24/7 planning for this, trying to prepare for it. And I think it can go off. This is the best city you can have it in. It really is. And I'm just excited for people to just see. And you'll have Hinkle and you'll have Assembly Hall and you'll have Mackey. It's just going to be really cool. And it's just great for the brand of Indiana and Indianapolis. And it's going to be fun.
And it is going to be a challenge, Dustin. There's a lot of logistics, man. You got 67 teams. They're got to put them all up, and they're trying to keep them segregated, basically. So they're just, you leave your hotel and go to where you play, and all that goes along with that. That's just a ton of logistics. But man, look, it could be a lot of fun.
Well, you know, Indianapolis and the state of Indiana has done a wonderful job of hosting these events. I mean, this is a city that hosted the Super Bowl, and, you know, except for the cold weather, I heard a lot of people say, you know, this was so well organized and so well run. This was one of the best experiences of a Super Bowl. And you're comparing that to places like Atlanta, Miami, New Orleans, you know, so many great cities. Indianapolis has become, it's going to be the host of a college football playoff. It was going to be the host of the NBA All-Star game. It was going to, you know, it hosts Big Ten tournaments and Final Fours. So this has, I think Indiana often gets overlooked as such a great sports state, but there's such great organization there. There's such, you know, such great planning and everything that you almost can't have it anywhere else. I mean, this is where you're going to have it. And it helps that you have places like Hinkle Fieldhouse and Mackey Arena in Bloomington, even though they're not, you know, even though Purdue and Indiana are not in Indianapolis, they're close enough where you can tie those in. And so it's just, you know, Indianapolis is becoming, and it has been for a long time, but I think the country is starting to recognize that this is a great sports city. It's a great sports state.
Absolutely, Taylor. You see it from close up all the time, all the different events. There's not many places you can go where you can have an NCAA championship, you can have an NBA All-Star game, a Super Bowl, the Indianapolis 500. I mean, you can go on and on. These are major. The Indianapolis 500 is the largest spectator sporting event in the world.
And I think that's how this all started, how they're able to do this. They've had to manage that for so long.
That's, I mean, 300,000. That's still, wasn't that like a 10th of the population of the United States?
Turns into like the second most populated, obviously, city.
Or 1%, whatever. Just nuts. It's mind-boggling. Taylor, what's coming up next for you? I know you're always busy, and it's a busy weekend.
Well, at about 12:45, heading to Colts practice. Gonna go freeze our tails off out there watching them as they freeze as well as they get prepared for Buffalo.
Hey, at least you get to go to practice.
Yeah, we get to go to we get some distance far away, but it's good. And we won't be traveling this weekend to go to Buffalo just because of COVID. Want to be safe, don't want to put ourselves in any situation, but we'll be covering that. I know IU basketball has quite the run coming up here. That is a brutal Big Ten schedule that they have here over the next 2 weeks.
got Wisconsin tonight.
Yeah. So, and of course some Pacer stuff. So that's that, we're in basketball and still have our toes in football right now. So
not quite over yet, man. As hopefully the Colts can get a win and continue in the playoffs. There'll be nothing more fun than that. That would be exciting to see. That would be amazing for them to get on a run. And that's very possible.
Yes, very possible. Hey, I do like their odds on Saturday. I know that they're counted out, but I do like their odds. But of course they have a clock kick,
Every year in the playoffs, there's a game that the team that's supposed to win just doesn't win. And this is, I don't know why I'm getting this feeling of this game being that, but this may be that one. I don't know why. We'll see.
I'm with you.
Taylor, I cannot thank you enough. Love having you on all the time. I cannot wait till you're back with us. Thank you so much. Have fun this weekend, and can't wait to get down to Bloomington soon.
I'm coming, and you're going to be the tour guide. See you, Dustin.
Ready to go. Thank you so much. Dustin's been a fun one as always, man. Look forward to doing it again next week. It's going to be a fun weekend. We got plenty of football to watch. What are you looking forward to most of all?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that national championship game. I mean, the way Ohio State handled Clemson and the way Alabama took care of Notre Dame, I think this has the potential to be, we've seen some good national championship games in the era of the college football playoff, but I think that this has the potential to be one of the best. And by rivals and by 247 Sports, both those networks, this is the most talent. These are the two most talented rosters we've seen play a national championship game. So there's a lot of NFL talent. If you love watching great football players, that's going to be the game. I know it's not the weekend, but that's going to consume all my energy this weekend.
Absolutely. Makes sense, man. Appreciate you so much. Looking forward to it. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow to do this again. Verdell Jones, of course, sits in on Fridays. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com will have reaction from tonight's Indiana-Wisconsin game. And don't forget, of course, after the game with Todd Leary coming to you live from Yogi's, we'll be there to take care of that. The folks at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, make sure you get out there and check them out. They've got a 0% sales event going on right now. Get out there and get you a nice Andy Moore Honda so you can drive down to French Lick Resort and Casino for a nice weekend. But we got a great one coming up on tomorrow. Can't wait. Dustin, thanks a lot. Great thanks to Taylor Tannenbaum. Love her to death for joining us as always. Appreciate you guys most of all. Do something nice for somebody. Wear your mask. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio. Woo! Awesome. That's a lot of talking, brother.